started as a normal day, just like any other. I took a shower and grabbed a quick cup of coffee before heading out of the front door and waited. A scream coming from down the hall broke my concentration. I considered going. The radio began blurting out all kinds of information. It said that a new breed of virus had been discovered, one that would change its victim. At this point, I felt myself entering a state of mild shock. It was obvious. I knew that the phone lines would most likely be overwhelmed, so I decided not to waste time. I began to make my way through a series of corridors that lead to the elevator. I began to look for somebody to help, but all of my fellow I arrived at the elevator, but to my dismay, I quickly made my way down the stairs to the ground floor. I eventually reached the ground floor and I managed to slip away without any infected noticing and proceeded quickly. I made my way through several corridors towards the back of I remembered that there was a small window in the male bathroom just Not wanting to waste time, I set about trying to squeeze through the window. I dropped from the window and landed on the pavement with a heavy thud. I called out to the little girl. She slowly turned towards me before I eventually arrived at the main road. I ran into the middle of the road and began signaling the bus to stop. As I continued down the street, I noticed several groups of people. I jogged over to the group of I told the group that I thought we should try to find some transportation. I began making as much noise as I could, running. We eventually found a few different options for vehicles. I suggested that we take the Jeep, and the others quickly agreed. We approached the Jeep and peered inside. I made my suggestion, but the others immediately flung open the doors and started. I headed towards the motorbike and didn't look. I climbed aboard my chosen vehicle. I pulled up onto I continued down the road before turning on. I decided that there was no point in. As I sped down the disturbingly quiet. I walked over to the car and I opened the driver's. After a half an hour of walking, I decided to get off the main road. I finally arrived in my neighborhood. I grabbed him by the neck, realizing I had bought myself valuable time. Grabbing a brick, I sped down the alley and back on. I decided that it was too dangerous to. As I approached the house, I realized that whoever had broken into. I headed over to the shed and checked my pockets. I picked up the hand axe since it was light and easy to use, although perhaps not. With my weapon in hand, I left the shed and walked. I told the looter that I wasn't going to hurt him, and that he could take. Having dealt with the looter, I walked in through the back door. I quickly shut the back door and locked it. I began searching the ground floor for my wife. As I came into the living I decided it was best not to disturb him, and as I went to go upstairs, I noticed a note. I pulled myself together and resolved to keep searching. As I climbed the stairs, I heard an odd shuffling noise coming from my. I slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside. The scene that greeted me will haunt my nightmares for years to come. Wasting no time at all, I smashed the infected over the head with my weapon. I was lucky not to hit my wife by mistake, but at least I was finally reunited with my wife. I knew that she might turn into one of those things. My wife and I spent some time discussing what to do next. We realized that we couldn't stay in the house forever, as it was just too dangerous this close to civilization. We decided that our best bet was to load up the car with food and supplies, and then head for her parents' house out in the country. I made sure the house was secure, dragged the corpses down to the basement, and then helped my wife get everything ready. She looked pale and weak, but it didn't seem like she would turn, at least not for a while yet. By the time everything was ready, it was already nightfall, so we decided to spend one more night at home before hitting the road. I don't think either of us slept that night, but it was better than traveling in the dark. We left at dawn.